Alright, so I've been wanting to talk about Assassin's Creed for a while now, but just haven't gotten around to making a video. So here we are. Let's talk about Assassin's Creed. The game series has a lot of ups and downs. Oh, every series does, but this one has seemed to have crumbled up under its own potential. Just like some other Ubisoft titles, like um, Watch Dogs, for example. They both have had a lot of potential, but Ubisoft being Ubisoft, they've like messed it up quite a bit over the years, and they're not worth anything anymore. But you know what? We move along. And I've been playing most of the games. I started playing from Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. I was pretty much instantly hooked. I played it on my cousin's computer when I was like, what, 10, 11, something like that. And I was just hooked straight away with the gameplay. And then later on, I searched up some walkthroughs, some gameplay of the whole thing, and you know what? I loved it even more, even further. Then recently, then I bought like a PS4 a few years ago when I was 16. Played Odyssey. My opinion, not that great of an Assassin's Creed game, but a mediocre game at best. But you know what? We'll get to that later on in its own section. I've I've wanted this series to be the best it can be for a while now, but it gets close to it and then it takes two steps back and it just becomes bad again. So I don't know. But this series is mostly decent, if not mostly decent at best, I'd say actually. Well, anyway, these games do seem to have diverted from what they used to be, from the original vision that they had, which is a very polarizing topic in the fan base at the moment, as the series started off being a realistic but alternated history title with alternative history, right? You just had it was very realistic. You could imagine it being real. It obviously a little bit different, right? Where the technology was a bit wonky, but you could imagine it being somewhat authentic, somewhat real. That happened, and that would have happened in the past and could happen in the future with the tech during the modern day. But now we've got some gods, we've got a lot of mythology in here, which, in my opinion, I mean, it's very. I don't like it, but some people do. Some, and I don't know. This is a video about my opinion on it. So let's get started with the first Assassin's Creed game, right? Which obviously was fantastic. It was a revolutionary game with great mechanics, mostly unique to Assassin's Creed, like social stealth, the parkour. Even though yes, the parkour was in Prince of Persia where it came from, but Assassin's Creed refined it a bit further and made it its own. There was social stealth where you could just hide from like guards and shit from um, like with priests, was it? Yeah, priests, and it was quite decent in my opinion. It had great character building. It a good plot twist and decent gameplay, for which it birthed a franchise into what we know today as Assassin's Creed, one of the most money making, the biggest money making machines in Ubisoft's arsenal. After that came Assassin's Creed 2, which of course was even better, right? Introduced us to one of the most beloved assassins in the whole series, Ezio Auditore da Firenze, and one of the best soundtracks in the whole series, Ezio's Family. Here's the listen. Which has been remade and reimagined over the years quite a few times in different games. But that being said, this game also does improve the basic mechanics like parkour, makes it more streamlined, makes it easier to do, makes it more fluid, and has a great story to boot. Some great character development. We're hooked on Ezio. we feel for him from the get-go, and it was fantastic. And then because of the yearly game release that Ubisoft had at the time, we got two more games in the two following years, Brotherhood and Revelations. Brotherhood introduced even more mechanics where you actually had the Brotherhood mechanic into it, and you had the same mechanic in Revelations as well, where you could um, get recruit the assassins and actually create a Brotherhood in the place they were at, and like do sieges and call them to arms if you needed to get a quick escape or just couldn't be bothered like fighting or whatever, right? But it actually felt like you had an assassin brotherhood, and there were assassins in the city that weren't just you, and like other people in like a family sort of, in a like a gang or a family sort of thing. Then after these two games came one of the most disappointing games. It wasn't the most disappointing because that title goes to Unity. It has the worst release out of the bunch. But then came Assassin's Creed 3, right? And introduced us to Connor Kenway, the first person we introduced from the Kenway bloodline, sorry. And it did innovate between from parkour. You could actually travel you could parkour through trees now. We had snow, we had other objects. We could make some quick moves like quick dashes across small objects or fences. You could actually go into a building. It was a cutscene, but you could go into a building and get out of it, which was very cool at the time. There were double takedowns. You could use a lot of different weapons like tomahawks, your blade, and quite a few other weapons, which was also sick. But in the main story, not a lot of people liked how they portrayed Connor. Everybody thought he was quite. A lot of people thought he was quite stale, but with the DLC and the book, they tried to fix it, but I mean, people didn't pay attention to it at all after the main game. So, and it was a good game. It was decent, but it could have been better, I'd say. Then came the Black Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Personally, one of my favorite games ever, and my most favorite, my favorite. Well, you can't have most favorite. My favorite Assassin's Creed game out of the bunch. Introduced Connor's grandfather, Edward James Kenway. He was obviously great. His character development was amazing. His ship, the Jackdaw, was great. We also got introduced to Adavale, who was also an amazing side character. He obviously got his own DLC and all that, but he was great. Um, we got even more refined um, ship ship combat, and it was great in general. And this was also the game right after. So in Assassin's Creed 3, they killed off Desmond Miles, right? Who was the main the arching plot of our boy of Desmond was the main arching plot for the modern day. But they killed him off in Assassin's Creed 3. So in Black Flag in Assassin's Creed 4, you are this nameless, bodiless husk of a character in Abstergo building and like just sniffing through memory, I guess. Like at this point, no one knew what they were going for, and I don't think they did either, to be honest. But yeah, they had some great innovation. Up until now, the whole series had been played by its own combat system, which was the counter kill was bloody broken. It was quite easy, and I think it was the worst in this and Assassin's Creed Rogue. But after these games, it does get better. But until now, it was quite awful. They did introduce some new features like the sea shanties, which gave you a reason to do parkour around the world. Um, they gave you sea shanties. They had some really cool um, like weapons, like pistol swords, which weren't that like different in normal gameplay, but it was quite cool anyways. And then you got obviously have the ship combat, which was amazing. Road, which was pretty much the same game but a different story and a different setting. And we got to see more of Connor Kenway's father and Edward Kenway's son, Haytham Kenway, who is in fact a Templar, and we got to see a little bit more of him. And then the main character was Shay Patrick Cormac, who defected from the Brotherhood because they treated him pretty shit, honestly, and he tried to make his own luck as it was. This game does show a different side to the Templars, but it was also like it made the assassins objectively bad and then the Templars objectively good. Whereas the rest of the games have Templars objectively bad, most of them anyway, and then assassins objectively good, which did cheapen the conflict a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. Um, Introduced some few mechanics, different pistols. You have a dagger. You had puckle gun with your ship combat. It was mostly the same. You had a few different things, but mostly it was the same. And then came Assassin's Creed Unity. Oh god. This game, honestly, probably the worst launch they could have had, but it was also the most innovative game out of the bunch. As you can see, there's some gameplay going on of it right now. It's one of the most prettiest games you will see out of the bunch, and with one of the best, in my opinion anyway, parkour systems out there in any Assassin's Creed game. But this, the story was pretty good. I loved the romance of a Templar and assassin. I loved the whole initiation into the Assassin Brotherhood. The whole game was great, but it is still not fixed. The bugs, the glitches, the you don't know what's gonna happen pretty much. Like you could press a button to go forward, but he might not go forward because of the bugs. The game wasn't consistent at all, which was horrible. It's still not consistent to this day. It is a lot better, but it's just not. Also, look at all these icons on this bloody map, man. Like nobody has time to get all the icons, and this is just the main story. There's also the other icons in the DLC, the Dead Kings, and it's just too much. Honestly, just too much. It had a lot of potential. This was the one step forward. It had great potential, but then they took 2 steps back with Assassin's Creed Syndicate. It still had the roots of the parkour system, still had the roots of Unity, but it wasn't there because of the setting of London, industrial era London. They couldn't make the buildings too close, which meant like you couldn't. There was like huge gaps on the roads, right? And then they gave you a grappling hook, which you needed to use, or it was just worthless being on roofs. You could just get down, right? And it just didn't. I just didn't like the fact that you had grappling hook. Plus, it didn't do anything cool. You either had to go you could either go vertically or you could go horizontally, and you couldn't stop in the middle. And it was just once you commit to it, you've committed to it, and it just I don't know, I didn't like it. But I did like how they did what they did with the river themes. Like you could play, it's pretty much Crossy Road in a sense, but with knives and fighting and some loot in between, which I really did enjoy. But the enemies, though, the combat was not good. The combat was awful because it felt like every enemy was a bullet sponge, and you could just keep killing, like hitting them. There was like 100 dagger attacks you would do, and the bastards would still not die. Like even the low level enemies, after you've like upgraded your shit, they just wouldn't die. It was not a great experience. But then we come to the modern era of the RPG video games, right? The role-playing games. The first comes Assassin's Creed Origin. It was great. It promised the origin story of the hooded assassins and added a new phase to the modern day after 3 games of having no modern day. 4 games of having no modern day. And they added Layla Hassan, which we could actually play. It was a playable character for the modern day. Technically, the nameless, faceless guys from AC, Black Flag, and Road were also playable, but come on now. All you did was serve a few puzzles and read a few books, read a few emails. It was not good. It was not good. Or read or heard some some voice notes. It was not that great. But AC Origins, they decided to fix all of it in somewhat manner, right? It was set in Egypt during the Cleopatra era, where you are Bayek of Siwa. You are like, um, and it actually was pretty good. I really enjoyed the whole thing between Aya and Bayek. The whole conflict between kings and queens being awful, awful people, like all the politics. But where and the new combat, it did good with the new combat. It added more than just two button presses to kill a person, right? And even like with AC Unity and AC Origin, AC Syndicate, you still had the counter kill, which was also quite broken, still. But then AC Origin revamped the whole system and made it to where you didn't have a counter kill. You had to dodge for the you had to dodge, and it was actually quite a lot better, right? And there were some, but then they removed the parkour. They made it to where you could climb pretty much anything, which got rid of the puzzle solving of all the parkour. Like for like in in the games prior, you had to look for to where to go if you wanted to find if you wanted to climb up a building, you had to find the right spots to be able to climb up a building. Whereas in this, you just press go and it just climbs up a building on its own, which like made it easier but also like removed the nuance of it. Same goes for AC Odyssey, which in my opinion was not a good Assassin's Creed game. Like the main game didn't even have a hidden blade or anything to do with the hidden ones or the assassins or anything. Yes, it did have DLC, but at that point I was just shit out. I finished the main story and I just couldn't be bothered touching the game ever again. One of the main reasons being the big number equals better system. All you were doing was farming numbers. All you were doing in the whole like combat system was farming numbers. If you didn't have the biggest number in the game, you couldn't fight a person. It didn't matter with the skill, you just wouldn't do any damage at all to them. And this game was made you into a demigod of sorts. There was you after a while you didn't even need to worry about fall damage. You could jump off of one of the highest buildings and just survive. Not even do the leap of faith into a haystack or water or whatever, but just survive onto floor because you could do a barrel roll in midair, which means you can just survive. Right? It didn't make sense. I did not enjoy AC Odyssey, and I think I'm with a lot of people on that as well. And then came AC Valhalla, which I did enjoy for the most part. I did enjoy the mythology part of it because I mean it was based in reality, but also I don't know. I preferred when there were no gods until AC Origins, right? Um, it does like take care of the fact by saying, oh, the main character is just having a vision or something, but I don't know. It's not. I didn't like it. But in general, it was a good game. For example, you could actually kill somebody without having the biggest number in the game if you were just good enough, which was a lot better. But also, microtransactions or Ubisoft really in a full priced game, like, and people are actually buying it. I don't understand. After this was even in Unity, right? Like where you had to do experience and then yeah, no. I hate I can understand paying for DLC, but I don't understand paying for cosmetics in a fully priced game. That's too much. I just don't understand. But in going back to AC Valhalla, the characters were really good. I did enjoy Eivor as a character. I did enjoy the sporting cast as a character. There were a few backstabs and a few um, what's the word? A few plot twists, which I did enjoy and I did like, which was quite nice. And in general, this game was pretty good. And then came and but yeah, now they're making a new game of AC Origin, AC Mirage is supposed to be coming out soon. Um, it's this year, I think, in 2023. Yeah, they haven't given you an exact date, but it's supposed to follow one of the side characters at a time of AC Valhalla, but we'll see, right? I'm hoping they make it like they include some form of AC Unity parkour into it with decent enough combat from all the games combined. But we'll find out when it comes, right? That being said,